You turned me into a monster. Now be afraid of what you created.
The rain hammered my windshield like bullets as I pulled into the driveway 3 hours early. My ancient Ford pickup coughed and wheezed before finally giving up the ghost in front of our modest 2-story house. Should have fixed that gasket months ago, just like I should have fixed my marriage. But some things are beyond repair. I sat there for a moment, watching the water cascade down the cracked concrete of our front steps. This neighborhood had seen better days. Heck, this whole town had seen better days. Millbrook used to be something, back when the textile mills were running. Now, it was just another forgotten New England town, where everyone knew everyone else's business, and secrets had the shelf life of milk left in the sun. The house was dark, except for the glow coming from our bedroom window upstairs. Sarah was supposed to be at the law firm until 9, working on some big case that would finally make her a partner. That's what she'd been telling me for the past 6 months anyway. I grabbed my toolbox from the truck bed and headed for the front door, my boots squelching in the muddy walkway. The key stuck in the lock. Everything in this place was falling apart, including my 30-year marriage. Inside, I could hear Sarah's voice drifting down from upstairs. She was laughing. Actually laughing. I couldn't remember the last time I'd heard her laugh at anything I'd said. "Oh, Brad, you're so bad." She giggled into the phone. Brad? I didn't know any Brad. I set my toolbox down carefully and crept up the stairs, avoiding the squeaky third step I've been meaning to fix for 2 years. I can't wait to see you tomorrow night. Same place? My veins turned to ice water. I pressed myself against the hallway wall, listening. No, Danny won't be home until late. He's got that big transmission job at the shop. Demonstrating. Danny. That's me. Hearing your wife talk about you in the third person while making plans with another man, that's a special kind of heck. I backed down the stairs and slipped out the front door, my heart pounding like a jackhammer. The rain had stopped, but everything still felt cold and wet. I sat in my truck for 20 minutes, staring at our bedroom window, watching Sarah's silhouette move back and forth. When the light finally went out, I went back inside. Sarah was already in bed, pretending to sleep. "You're home early," she mumbled without opening her eyes. Job got canceled. Rain. Presumption. Parade was it. No questions, no concern, no conversation. Just, I lay there staring at the ceiling for hours, listening to her breathe. At some point, I must have dozed off because I woke up to the sound of the shower running. Sarah was already up, getting ready for another day at the firm. "I'll be late tonight," she called from the bathroom. "Big deposition." "Sure thing, honey." After she left, I did something I'd never done in 30 years of marriage. I searched our bedroom. Under our bed, shoved way back against the wall, I found a gym bag I'd never seen before. Inside, a bottle of cheap cologne that made my eyes water, a keycard for the Millbrook Motor Lodge, and a photograph that made my stomach drop through the floor. It was Sarah, wearing black lingerie I'd definitely never seen before, posed on some motel bed with a smile I hadn't seen in years. But what really got me was the edge of the photo, a muscular forearm, obviously belonging to whoever was taking the picture. I sat on our bed holding that photo, feeling something cold and hard settle in my chest. 30 years of marriage, 30 years of building a life together, working my tail off at the body shop while she went to law school, supporting her through the bar exam, celebrating every promotion. And this is what I got. I tucked the photo into my wallet and put everything else back exactly where I'd found it. Then I called my best friend Pete. "Danny's Auto Body, Pete speaking." "It's me. I need you to cover the shop today." "Fleming. Everything okay, boss?" "In prison. Just need to take care of something personal." Pete had been working for me for 15 years. He knew when not to ask questions. I spent the rest of the day sitting in my truck across from Sarah's law office, watching. At lunch, she walked out with another woman, her colleague Jennifer Morrison. They went to that fancy cafe on Main Street where a sandwich costs more than I make in an hour. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see Sarah's face. She was animated, excited, gesturing with her hands. She looked happier than I'd seen her in years. At 5:30, Instead of heading home, Sarah got in her BMW and drove toward the high school. I followed at a distance, my pulse hammering in my ears. She parked behind the gymnasium and sat there for 10 minutes, checking her makeup in the rearview mirror. Then a side door opened, and out walked the biggest man I'd ever seen outside of a wrestling ring. Brad Kowalski. I recognized him now, the high school's PE teacher and football coach. Local legend. Former college quarterback who could have gone pro if he hadn't blown out his knee. Every woman in town thought he was God's gift to the female gender. I watched from behind the maintenance shed as Sarah got out of her car and practically ran into his arms. They kissed like teenagers, right there in the school parking lot where anyone could see them. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold my phone steady as I took pictures. But I got them. Clear shots of my wife of 30 years, making out with the town hero like some lovesick teenager. That night, Sarah came home at 11:30. "How was the deposition?" I asked from my chair in the living room. She jumped like I'd shot her. "Danny, you scared me. It was long, complicated case." It was. She studied my face for a moment, and I saw something flicker in her eyes. Suspicion? Guilt? Fear? I'm exhausted. "Going to bed. Good night, honey." I sat there until 3 in the morning, staring at those photos on my phone, feeling that cold, hard thing in my chest grow bigger and sharper. The next morning, I made coffee and waited. Sarah came downstairs at 7:30, already dressed for work in one of her power suits. "We need to talk," I said. She froze with her hand on the coffee pot. "About what?" "About Brad." The color drained from her face, but she recovered quickly. Sarah had always been good under pressure. It's what made her a good lawyer. "I don't know what you're talking about." Pulled out my phone and showed her the photos. She stared at the screen for a long moment, then sat down heavily in the chair across from me. "Danny, How long?" She didn't answer. "How long, Sarah?" 6 months. Her voice was barely a whisper. 6 months. While I was working 60-hour weeks to keep the shop afloat, she was playing house with the local hero. "Do you love him?" She looked up at me then, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Defiance. Yes. That one word hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I'd been expecting denials, apologies, tears. I wasn't prepared for honesty. "Then why are you still here?" "Because," she struggled for words, "because it's complicated." "Complicated how?" "Let me this. You wouldn't understand." And there it was, the same condescending tone she'd been using for years, like I was too stupid to grasp the complexities of her sophisticated world. "Try me." She stood up and paced to the window. He's everything you're not. He's exciting, passionate, alive. When I'm with him, I feel like the woman I used to be before I got trapped in this." She gestured around our kitchen. "This life. Trapped. 30 years of marriage, and I was her prison." "So leave." She turned to face me. "It's not that simple. There's my career to think about, my reputation. A messy divorce would ruin everything I've worked for." "And what about what I've worked for?" "Your little garage?" She laughed, actually laughed. "Danny, be realistic. You fix cars. I'm about to make partner at one of the most prestigious firms in the state. We're not exactly equals here." That cold, hard thing in my chest exploded into white-hot rage. I stood up so fast my chair fell over. "Get out." "What?" "Now. Is my house too. The deed says otherwise. I bought this place before we got married, remember? You wanted a prenup to protect your assets? Well, congratulations. It works both ways." Her face went pale. "You can't just throw me out. Watch me." For the first time in years, I saw fear in her eyes. Real fear. "I'll call the police." "Go ahead. Tell them you're cheating on your husband and he asked you to leave his house. See how that goes over." She grabbed her purse and briefcase. "This isn't over, Danny." "No, it's not." After she left, I sat in my kitchen drinking coffee and planning. Sarah thought she was smarter than me, thought she could manipulate the situation to her advantage. She had no idea what she was dealing with. I'd been underestimated my whole life. In school, the teachers wrote me off as just another blue-collar kid destined for manual labor. When I started my business, the bank loan officer barely took me seriously. Even Sarah, in the beginning, had seen me as a safe choice, a stable provider while she built her career. But underestimation can be a tool if you know how to use it. I spent the day at the shop, but my mind was elsewhere. Pete noticed. "Boss, you okay? You've been staring at that engine for 20 minutes. Just thinking." Standoff. "About what?" I looked at Pete, really looked at him. He was a good guy, loyal, hardworking. The kind of person who'd stick by you when things got rough. "Pete, you ever been married?" "Divorced, 3 years now." "What happened?" He shrugged. "She decided she wanted something different. Someone different." "You ever think about getting her back?" Pete laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Every day for the first year. Then I realized something." "What's that?" "Some people don't deserve to be gotten back." Theology. That evening I drove to Flanagan's, the dive bar on the wrong side of town where the locals went to drink away their problems. Pete was there, nursing a beer and watching the game. "Mind if I join you?" "Free country." I ordered a whiskey and sat down. "I need some advice." "Shoot." I told him everything. The affair, the confrontation, Sarah's reaction. Pete listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding or taking a sip of his beer. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "What do you want to do about it?" "I want to hurt them, both of them, the way they hurt me." "Unwilling." "Natural. Question is, how far are you willing to go?" Blindness. Revenge. I thought about Sarah's laugh on the phone, her condescending tone, the way she dismissed our entire marriage as a trap. "As far as it takes." Pete smiled for the first time all evening. "Then you're going to need a plan." We talked until closing time, working out the details. Pete had been through a nasty divorce. He knew all the angles, all the ways people could hurt each other when a marriage went bad. By the time I got home, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Sarah didn't come home that night, or the next. I figured she was staying with Brad, probably in that fancy apartment he'd rented across town. Good. Let them think they'd won. On Thursday morning, my phone rang. It was Tom Mitchell, my oldest friend, and the guy who'd introduced me to Sarah 30 years ago. "Danny, we need to talk." "About what?" "About what you're doing to Sarah." That familiar cold anger settled in my chest. "What I'm doing to her?" "She's staying at Jennifer's place. She still know at her. I still stable on. I created their magical in quarter. I asking to Jennifer's staying at Jennifer's place. She's a mess, Danny. Whatever this is about, you need to work it out." "Did she tell you why she's not at home?" Silence. "Did she mention Brad Kowalski?" More silence. "I see. She told you her version of the story." "Look, man, I don't want to get in the middle of this." "Then don't." I hung up. 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. This time it was Mike Santos, another old friend. "Danny, what the heck is wrong with you?" "Nothing's wrong with me, Mike." "Sarah says you've lost your mind, that you're making wild accusations." "Sarah says a lot of things. She's been our friend for 30 years. She's been my wife for 30 years. That trumps friendship. You can't just destroy her reputation over some midlife crisis." I hung up on him too. By Friday, 3 more old friends had called. Same story every time. Sarah was playing the victim, painting me as the crazy, jealous husband who was destroying their marriage over nothing. It was a smart strategy. Get our mutual friends on her side, before I could tell my version of events. Classic lawyer move. But she'd made one mistake. She'd underestimated me again. That evening, I drove to the high school. Football practice was just ending, and I could see Brad on the field, talking to his players. He looked like a Greek god in his coaching gear, all muscles and confidence. I waited in my truck until the last kid had left, then walked across the field. "Coach Kowalski?" He turned and I saw recognition flicker in his eyes. He knew who I was. "Can I help you?" "I'm Danny Morrison, Sarah's husband." His face went carefully neutral. "Okay. I thought we should talk. Man to man." "I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not? You're sleeping with my wife. Seems like we should be able to have a conversation about it." He looked around nervously, checking to see if anyone was within earshot. Look, Mr. Morrison, Danny, I understand you're upset. Upset? I laughed. Brad, I'm not upset. I'm impressed. 30 years of marriage, and you managed to break it up in 6 months. That takes talent. He shifted uncomfortably. It's not like that. What's it like? Sarah and I, we have a connection. Something real. Sheaf enough to sneak around behind my back. We never meant for it to happen. But it did happen. And now you're both dealing with the consequences. Something in my tone must have gotten through to him, because he took a step back. What do you want? I want you to understand something, Brad. Sarah thinks she can manage this situation, control the narrative, make me out to be the bad guy. She's a smart woman, and she's probably right about most of it. But she made one mistake. She forgot that I've been living in this town my whole life. I know everyone, and everyone knows me. And in a place like Millbrook, reputation is everything. Are you threatening me? Relinquating you. See, Sarah's new to this town. She moved here when we got married, but she never really became part of the community. She was always too good for local politics, too sophisticated for town gossip. Brad was listening intently now. But you? You're Millbrook royalty. High school hero, beloved coach, pillar of the community. You've got a lot more to lose than she does. What's your point? I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos from the parking lot. His face went white. My point is that I can destroy you with a single Facebook post. Every parent in this town will see their children's coach and role model making out with a married woman in the school parking lot. You bastard. But I'm a bastard with nothing left to lose. Can you say the same? I put my phone away and started walking back to my truck. Think about it, Brad. Is she really worth your career? That weekend, I put the next phase of my plan into motion. I drove to Jennifer Morrison's apartment complex and waited. Sure enough, at 10:30 Saturday morning, Sarah emerged from the building. She saw me immediately. There was no way to avoid it. I was parked right next to her BMW. She walked over to my truck, her face set in hard lines. What do you want, Danny? To talk. We've talked. No, you talked. You told me how trapped you felt, how I wasn't enough for you, how Brad was everything I'm not. Now it's my turn. She glanced around nervously. Not here. Why not? Afraid someone might see us together? Get in the car. We'll drive somewhere. I followed her to Millbrook Park, the same place where I'd proposed to her 31 years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. We sat on a bench overlooking the pond where families of ducks paddled around in lazy circles. I've been thinking about what you said, I began. And? You're right. About most of it, anyway. I'm not exciting or passionate or any of those things. I'm just a guy who fixes cars and pays his bills and thought his wife loved him. Sarah's expression softened slightly. Danny. But here's the thing you forgot, Sarah. I might not be exciting, but I'm not stupid either, and I'm definitely not helpless. The softness disappeared from her face. I know about the motor lodge. I know you've been using our joint credit card to pay for your little romantic getaways. I know you told Brad I wouldn't be home Wednesday night, so you could bring him to our house. She went pale. How? I put a camera in our bedroom Tuesday morning. Motion activated. High definition. Very revealing. You recorded us? I recorded you. In my house. In my bed. She stood up abruptly. That's illegal. You can't record someone without their consent. Actually, I can. It's my house, remember? No expectation of privacy. They'll have you arrested. For what? Recording my cheating wife with her boyfriend in my own bedroom? Good luck with that. She sat back down, and for the first time since this whole mess started, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. What do you want? I want you to understand that this isn't going to go the way you planned. You thought you could control the situation, manage the fallout, come out looking like the victim. I am the victim. No, Sarah, you're the cheater, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows it. Monday morning, I opened my shop as usual. Pete was already there, working on a transmission rebuild. How'd it go this weekend? Phase 1 complete. And Phase 2? I smiled. That starts today. At lunch, I drove to Sarah's law firm. The building was all glass and steel, designed to intimidate. I walked through the lobby like I belonged there and took the elevator to the third floor. Sarah's secretary looked up as I approached her desk. "Mr. Morrison, how nice to see you. Sarah's in a meeting." "That's okay, Linda. I'm actually here to see Mr. Brennan." Richard Brennan was the senior partner, the man who would decide whether Sarah made partner or not. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but tell him it's about Sarah. He'll want to see me." 10 minutes later, I was sitting in Brennan's corner office, looking out at the town where I'd lived my entire life. "Danny, good to see you. How's the auto repair business?" "Can't complain. Actually, Mr. Brennan, I'm here about Sarah." His expression became guarded. "Oh? I thought you should know that she's been having an affair with Brad Kowalski." Brennan's face went carefully blank. "That's a very serious accusation." "Not an accusation. It's a fact." I pulled out my phone and showed him selected photos. Nothing explicit, but clear evidence of the affair. Brennan studied the images for a long moment. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because Sarah's up for partner, and I thought the firm should know what kind of person they're considering for promotion." Her personal life is her own business. Not when she's using company time and resources to conduct the affair. Not when she's lying to clients about her availability. Not when she's compromising the firm's reputation. Brennan leaned back in his chair. "What do you want, Danny?" "I want the truth to matter. Sarah thinks she can have her cake and eat it too. Keep her marriage for appearances while playing house with her boyfriend. I'm here to tell you that's not going to happen." "Are you threatening the firm?" "I'm informing the firm. What you do with the information is up to you." I stood up to leave. "Danny." Brennan's voice stopped me at the door. "I'm sorry this happened to you. So am I." My phone started ringing. First Tom, then Mike, then the others. One by one, our mutual friends called to apologize. "Danny, I had no idea." "Sarah's. Listen to your side." But it was too late for apologies. They'd chosen sides without hearing the facts, and that told me everything I needed to know about their friendship. By Thursday, the whole town was buzzing with gossip. In a place like Millbrook, news travels faster than wildfire, and the story of the lawyer's wife and the football coach was too juicy to keep quiet. I was at Flanagan's Thursday night when Brad walked in. The bar went quiet as everyone turned to stare. He looked like heck, unshaven, hollow-eyed, defeated. He walked straight to my table. "You happy now?" "Getting there. They suspended me pending investigation. 20 years of coaching, and it's all gone because of your vindictive BS. "My vindictive BS? Brad, you slept with my wife. What did you think was going to happen? I thought we were all adults here." "Adults don't sneak around behind people's backs." He sat down across from me, uninvited. "Sarah said you'd be reasonable. She said you just needed time to cool off." "Sarah said a lot of things. Most of them were lies. She loves me. She loves the idea of you. There's a difference." Brad ordered a beer and drank half of it in one gulp. "You know what's funny?" he said. "What?" "She's been calling me all week, crying about how you've ruined her career, destroyed her reputation, made her life heck. But she hasn't once asked how I'm doing." "What did you expect?" "I don't know, some concern, some acknowledgement that I'm losing everything too." I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "Brad, let me give you some free advice. Sarah Morrison looks out for Sarah Morrison. Period. You were useful to her when she needed excitement and validation. Now that the situation has gotten complicated, you're a liability." Dismissing his beer and ordered another. "She's leaving town," he said quietly. "What?" "Got a job offer in Boston. Big firm, big salary. She's leaving next week." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "Did she ask you to go with her?" Brad's silence was answer enough. I left him at the bar and drove home through the quiet streets of Millbrook. The house felt different now. Emptier, but somehow cleaner, like a wound that had finally been drained. Friday morning, Sarah called. "We need to talk, one last time." "About what?" "About ending this like civilized people." We met at the same park where we'd had our previous park. We met at least one live. We met at the space about one of change. I take the first cover, "We hate it so for the fartum of way for us with." We've never much better know along this, like civilized where we'd had our previous conversation. Sarah looked tired and older somehow, like the past 2 weeks had aged her years. I'm leaving, she said without preamble. I heard. I got an offer from Morrison, Blake & Associates in Boston. Senior associate position, partnership track. Congratulations. Danny, I want you to know. What? That you're sorry? That it wasn't supposed to happen this way? That you never meant to hurt me? She looked down at her hands. All of that. Save it, Sarah. You made your choices. Now you get to live with the consequences. Expelled. What about Brad? What about him? Are you going to keep destroying him after I'm gone? I thought about Brad sitting in Flanagan's, drowning his sorrows while the woman he'd given up everything for prepared to skip town without him. I don't need to destroy Brad. You already did that. Sarah started crying then. Real tears, not the calculated kind she used in court. I never wanted it to end like this. How did you want it to end? I don't know, I wanted to feel alive again. I wanted to remember what it was like to be desired, to be exciting, to be more than just someone's wife. You were never just my wife, Sarah. You were my partner, my best friend, the person I trusted most in the world. But that wasn't enough for you. I know, and I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix 30 years of marriage. She wiped her eyes and stood up. The divorce papers will be ready next week. I'm not asking for anything except my personal belongings. Smart move. Danny? I looked up at her. I did love you. Maybe not the way you deserved, but I did love you. I know. I sat by the pond for a long time, watching the ducks and thinking about the past 30 years. All those memories, all those shared experiences, reduced to legal documents and divided property. But as I sat there, I realized something surprising. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt free. Sarah left town the following Wednesday. I watched from my truck as she loaded her BMW with suitcases and boxes, erasing 30 years of marriage in a single morning. She didn't say goodbye. Brad showed up at my shop that afternoon. The school board had voted to terminate his contract, and word was he'd been drinking heavily since Sarah's departure. I need to talk to you, he said. Make it quick. I've got work to do. I'm leaving town too. Good for you. But I know something. I looked up from the engine I was working on. She never loved me, he said quietly. The whole time it was just excitement, adventure, a way to feel young again. I could have told you that. She used me to get back at you for something. I never figured out what. That caught my attention. What do you mean? She was always talking about how you'd held her back, kept her from reaching her potential, like you'd somehow trapped her in this small-town life. I heard back from anything. I know that now. But she needed someone to blame for her choices. And you were convenient. Brad shifted uncomfortably. There's something else. About Jennifer Morrison. Sarah's friend? She was the one who introduced us. Set the whole thing up. At that familiar cold anger starting to build. What are you talking about? Jenna 44 is the one who suggested Sarah join the gym where I work out. She's the one who arranged for us to meet at that legal conference last year. She practically pushed us together. Why would she do that? Brad shrugged. You'd have to ask her. After he left, I sat in my shop thinking. Jennifer Morrison had been Sarah's closest friend and colleague for 5 years. She was also single, ambitious, and had always seemed a little too interested in Sarah's personal life. That evening, I drove to Jennifer's apartment complex and waited. She arrived home from work at 7:30, looking surprised to see me. Danny? What are you doing here? We need to talk. About what? About Sarah and Brad, and your role in bringing them together. Her face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Brad told me everything before he left town. How you introduced them, encouraged the relationship, helped them arrange their meetings. Jennifer fumbled with her keys, dropping them twice before managing to unlock her door. You want to come inside? No, I want you to go through. The mother from discovering access at Sarah's place. Rode into expressive meeting with Lee Cover. Her methods you talked about it, but I don't to change them. Jennifer, I want you to explain why you destroyed my marriage. She turned to face me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never noticed before. Hatred. Pure, cold hatred. You really don't know, do you? Know what? How much she resented you, how trapped she felt, how many nights she cried herself to sleep because she'd married beneath her station. Sarah never said, of course she never said anything. She was too polite, too proper. But I could see it eating her alive, year after year. So you decided to help her have an affair? Jennifer laughed, but there was no humor in it. I decided to help her see what she was missing. Brad was perfect. Everything you're not. Handsome, exciting, passionate. And timid enough to fall for your manipulation. He served his purpose. The casual cruelty in her voice was breathtaking. What purpose was that? To show Sarah that she deserved better than a small-town mechanic who'd never amount to anything. And now? Now she's free. She's got a new job, a new life, a chance to be the person she was meant to be. Without Brad. Brad was just a catalyst. Sarah's smart enough to know that a high school football coach isn't her endgame. I stared at this woman who'd smiled at me across dinner tables, who'd attended our anniversary parties, who'd pretended to be our friend while plotting to destroy our marriage. You're in love with her. Jennifer's are cracked for just a moment. That's ridiculous. Is it? You've been obsessed with Sarah for years. Single woman, no serious relationships, always hanging around our house, always available when Sarah needed someone to talk to. We're friends. Friends don't destroy each other's marriages, but jealous lovers do. Jennifer's face twisted with rage. You have no idea what you're talking about. I think I do. You've been in love with Sarah for years, but she was married to me. So you decided to break us up, thinking that once she was free, she'd turn to you. That's insane. But it didn't work out that way, did it? Sarah's not interested in women. She's not interested in you. So now you're alone, and your best friend is gone, and you have nothing to show for your scheming except the satisfaction of destroying a 30-year marriage. Jennifer was crying now, angry tears streaming down her face. She deserved better than you. Maybe she did, but she didn't deserve to be manipulated by someone she trusted. I turned to leave, then stopped. Jennifer? She looked up at me. Sarah's never coming back to Millbrook. And even if she did, she'd never forgive you for what you've done. You destroyed the only relationship that mattered to you. And for what? Nothing. I left her standing in her doorway, crying into the darkness. The next morning, I drove to the cemetery where my parents were buried. I hadn't been there in months, too caught up in the drama of my failing marriage to visit the people who'd actually loved me unconditionally. I sat on the bench next to their headstones and told them everything. About Sarah's affair, about the divorce, about Jennifer's manipulation. It felt good to talk to people who wouldn't judge me, wouldn't take sides, wouldn't offer unwanted advice. When I was finished, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Peace. My phone buzzed, a text message from an unknown number. Danny, this is Sarah. I wanted you to know that the divorce papers are final. I also wanted to apologize for Jennifer. I had no idea what she'd done until Brad told me yesterday. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you can find happiness. I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. Some apologies come too late to matter. That evening, I was at Flanagan's having a beer when Tom Mitchell walked in. He saw me and hesitated, then came over to my table. Mind if I sit? Free country. He ordered a beer and sat down across from me. I owe you an apology. You do. I should have listened to your side before taking Sarah's word for everything. You should have. When we're friends for 25 years, Danny, that should have counted for something. Relinquished it at this man who'd been my best man, who'd helped me move into my first apartment, who'd celebrated every milestone in my life. It should have, I agreed, but it didn't. Is there any way to fix this? I thought about it, really thought about it. Tom, you called me crazy. You accused me of destroying Sarah's reputation over a midlife crisis. You chose to believe her lies instead of trusting me enough to ask for the truth. I know. I was wrong. Yes, you were, and that tells me everything I need to know about our friendship. Tom's face fell. So that's it. 25 years and it's just over? It was over the minute you decided Sarah's word was worth more than mine. He finished his beer in silence and left. Mike Santos came by the next night. Same conversation, same result. One by one, my old friends tried to apologize, and one by one, I turned them away. Some betrayals can't be forgiven. By the end of the month, the gossip had died down. Millbrook had moved on to other scandals, other dramas. Sarah was forgotten, Brad was gone, and Jennifer had transferred to another law firm in Springfield. Life returned to normal, or what passed for normal in my new reality. I kept the shop running, paid my bills, and slowly began to rebuild my life. I started going to the gym, not because I was trying to compete with Brad Kowalski, but because I wanted to feel strong again. I bought new clothes, fixed up the house, and even went on a few dates. Nothing serious, but it was nice to remember that there were women in the world who found me interesting. One evening in late fall, I was closing up the shop when a car pulled into the lot. A woman got out, attractive, maybe 40, with kind eyes and a genuine smile. Are you Danny Morrison? Depends who's asking. I'm Lisa Chen. I just moved to town and someone told me you were the best mechanic in Millbrook. Someone was being generous. She laughed. Well, my car's making a noise that sounds like a dying cat. Think you can help? I can take a look. As I examined her engine, we talked. She was a nurse, recently divorced, looking for a fresh start in a small town. She was funny, intelligent, and refreshingly honest about her own mistakes. So what brought you to Millbrook? I asked. Same thing that brings most people to small towns. I wanted to disappear for a while. Bad divorce? The worst. My ex-husband cleaned out our bank accounts and ran off with his secretary. Very original, right? Sorry to hear that. Don't be. Best thing that ever happened to me. Took me a while to realize it, but I'm better off without him. I fixed her car. Loose belt, nothing serious. And she insisted on buying me dinner as payment. We went to the diner on Main Street, the same place where I'd eaten lunch every day for 20 years. But somehow, with Lisa sitting across from me, it felt different, new. We talked until the place closed, sharing stories about our failed marriages, our hopes for the future, our fears about starting over in middle age. You know what's funny? She said as we walked to our cars. What? 6 months ago, I thought my life was over. Now I feel like it's just beginning. I knew exactly what she meant. We started seeing each other regularly. Dinner, movies, long walks around the lake. Nothing rushed, nothing desperate. Just two people who'd been through heck and were ready to try again. Lisa never asked about Sarah, never pushed for details about my divorce. She understood that some stories were too painful to tell, at least not right away. 3 months later, Sarah called. Danny? It's me. I almost didn't recognize her voice. She sounded smaller somehow, uncertain. What do you want, Sarah? I wanted to see how you were doing. I'm fine. Good, that's good. There was a long pause. Danny, I made a mistake. Which one? All of them. The affair, the way I treated you, leaving the way I did. I was wondering, is there any chance we could try again? I looked across my kitchen at Lisa, who was making coffee and humming softly to herself. She'd moved in the month before, and the house felt alive again. No, Sarah, there isn't. But I love you. I know I didn't show it, but I do love you. I'm sure you do, but I don't love you anymore. The silence stretched between us. Is there someone else? Yes. Oh. Sarah, you made your choice. You chose excitement over stability, passion over partnership, Brad over me. You don't get to change your mind now because things didn't work out the way you planned. I know, I thought maybe what? That I'd be sitting here waiting for you to come back? That I'd be so grateful to have you return that I'd forget everything that happened. I guess I hoped. Wait, have for something else, Sarah. Hope for happiness in Boston. Hope for a career that fulfills you. Hope for a man who can give you everything I couldn't. But don't hope for us. That's over. I hung up and turned off my phone. Lisa looked up from the coffee maker. Everything okay? Yeah, everything's perfect. And for the first time in years, I meant it. 6 months later, I got a wedding invitation in the mail. Tom Mitchell was marrying a woman he'd met online, someone from 3 towns over who didn't know about his role in my divorce. I threw the invitation in the trash. Mike Santos stopped by the shop a few weeks later, trying one more time to repair our friendship. I listened politely as he explained how sorry he was, how much he missed our friendship, how things could go back to the way they used to be. When he finished, I shook my head. Mike, you want forgiveness? Here it is. I forgive you for choosing Sarah's lies over my truth. I forgive you for abandoning me when I needed my friends most. I forgive you for being a coward. His face lit up with hope. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. You showed me who you really are when the chips were down. I can forgive that, but I can't forget it. The hope died in his eyes. So we can't be friends again? We were never really friends to begin with. Friends don't throw each other under the bus the first chance they get. He left without another word. That evening, Lisa and I were having dinner when she asked the question I'd been expecting for months. Do you ever regret it? Regret what? The way you handled things with Sarah. The revenge, the public humiliation. Burning all those bridges. I thought about it seriously. No, I said finally. I don't regret any of it. Why not? Because I spent 30 years being the nice guy, the understanding husband, the man who always took the high road. And where did it get me? A cheating wife, fair-weather friends, and a reputation as a pushover. And now? People know not to mess with me. Now, I know who my real friends are. Now, I'm with someone who actually wants to be with me. Lisa smiled. Good answer. Besides, I continued, Sarah got what she wanted. She's free. She's got her big city career. She's living the life she always dreamed of. Brad got what he deserved. Jennifer got what she deserved. And I got what I needed. Which was the truth about my marriage, about my friends, about myself. And what's the truth about yourself? Relinquished across the table and took her hand. That I'm not the nice guy everyone thought I was. I'm not the pushover who'll let people walk all over him. I'm not the man who'll turn the other cheek when someone betrays him. What are you then? I smiled, feeling that familiar, cold satisfaction settle in my chest. I'm the guy who fights back, and I always win. Lisa squeezed my hand. Good, she said. I like winners. The next morning, I opened my shop as usual. Pete was already there, working on a brake job. Morning, boss. Morning, Pete. You know what I was thinking? What's that? Maybe it's time to expand. Open a second location. You've got more business than you can handle. I looked around the shop that had been my life for 25 years. It was small, cramped, and showing its age. But it was mine, built with my own hands and my own sweat. You know what, Pete? I think you're right. Yeah? Yeah. Time to think bigger. As I said the words, I realized they were true about more than just the business. It was time to think bigger about everything. My future, my possibilities, my life. Sarah had been right about one thing. I had been small time, content to stay in my lane, happy with modest success and quiet contentment. But that man was gone, destroyed along with my marriage. In his place was someone harder, smarter, more ruthless. Someone who understood that nice guys don't finish first, they finish forgotten. I spent the morning drawing up plans for the expansion, making calls to contractors and suppliers. By lunch, I had meetings scheduled and financing arranged. By the end of the week, I'd purchased a lot across town and hired an architect. By the end of the month, construction had begun on Morrison Auto Center, a state-of-the-art facility that would be the biggest garage in 3 counties. Sarah had wanted to be with a winner, someone who thought big and achieved big. She'd chosen Brad because she thought he was that man. She'd been wrong about Brad, but she'd been right about one thing. I hadn't been that man either. Now I was. 6 months later, Morrison Auto Center opened to great fanfare. The mayor cut the ribbon, the local paper ran a feature story, and half the town showed up for the grand opening. I stood in the main bay, looking out at the crowd, and felt something I'd never experienced before. Pride. Real, deep, unshakable pride in what I'd accomplished. Lisa stood beside me, beautiful in a blue dress that matched her eyes. "You did it," she said. "We did it." Shells. Because of that. Shameful. As the crowd began to thin out, I noticed a familiar figure standing by the door. Tom Mitchell, looking older and somehow smaller than I remembered. He caught my eye and nodded. A gesture of respect, maybe even admiration. I nodded back. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, but acknowledgement. He'd made his choice, and I'd made mine. I was living with the consequences of both, and I was winning. That night, Lisa and I celebrated at the fanciest restaurant in the county. Over champagne and candlelight, she asked me a question that caught me off guard. "Do you think Sarah knows?" "Knows what?" Misled. "About your success, about the new business, the expansion, everything you've accomplished." I thought about it. In a town like Millbrook, news traveled fast. Someone had probably told someone, who told someone else. Eventually, word would get back to Boston. Probably. Shemale. How do you think she feels about it? Misinformation. I smiled, remembering the woman who'd called me small time, who'd said I'd never amount to anything, who'd traded 30 years of marriage for 6 months of excitement. I think she feels like she made the biggest mistake of her life. And how do you feel about that? Self. I raised my champagne glass. I feel like I won.